think that as artists, we all tend to be perfectionists. And I think that that striving for perfection is what drives artists to get into their studio day after day, work on a painting week after week. It is hard to know what is perfection. That would mean something different for each one of us artists. And that's what makes painting a challenge, but it also makes analysis and critique of a painting very difficult. Because if one person has one idea of what a painting should do, it's very different from what another person should do. And in my book, I really tried to address issues in broad ways so that someone could say, you know, lights and darks, a variety of color. That can be one way of making a painting very powerful, by really working with that concept. And yet, one artist might want a painting to be very subtle, with a subtle color palette, very minimal, and someone else might want something really loud in your face. But both artists are going to have to deal with some common concepts about painting, and that is that as painters, we generally want someone to be attracted to our work. And once they're attracted to our work, we want that image to be strong enough that they will be, you know, drawn to that painting and not be able to leave it. So for me, a perfect painting is a painting that gets someone's attention and holds it there long enough so that they can have a deeper, meaningful visual experience from that work. Maybe even an altered experience, but some kind of experience. It could be an emotional one, it could be an intellectual one, it could be a joyful one. On each painting of mine, I do have a specific type of feeling that I'd like that viewer to have. But again, if it doesn't draw your attention and it doesn't keep it there, you're not really going to get any kind of experience from that viewer. So I would say that even though as painters we all have a different idea of what a perfect painting would be, or we could say what a successful painting would be, I don't look at the success in terms of whether it sells or not. I look at the success in terms of whether the result has a power to it. And one other thing I want to say about that concept of perfect paintings versus perfect and successful paintings is that one time in the middle of my career somewhere, I had an exhibit. I had like 10 paintings along with 2 other painters. So there were 3 of us in a gallery show. And it was all hung, and it was about an hour before the opening, and I went in a little early. And when I walked in, my paintings made me go, ah, like that, because when they're hanging in a gallery, it's very different than when you're seeing it in your own space. And the way it was lit, and it was different than everybody else's paintings. It had that power to draw my attention and give me a lift. And I said, wow, that's what I'm going for. I want the paintings to transform from some flat image that may be decorative or peripheral into something that goes, ah, for a viewer. For me, the painting process, I see it in 3 phases. The first is beginning, the second is continuing, and the third is completing it. And I know that sounds very simplistic, but what I realized is that each phase, beginning, continuing, and completing, had a very different focus, a different energy that I needed to get through from one phase to the next. The beginning phase felt like freedom, and the continuing phase felt like faith. I had to have faith that the image would work, and the completion felt like healing. And I noticed that when I realized that there were 3 different phases, that they didn't go equally. I didn't start in one day and go through all 3 phases. In fact, I would sometimes, for a whole month, just want freedom. I just want beginnings. So I would start 10 or 15 paintings. Then I'd get to a point where I'd say, okay, I need to have faith that these paintings are moving somewhere. Where are they moving? And there was a curiosity about that, a faith and a curiosity. And then I would work for maybe several months on all of them. And there was usually one day, it was interesting, one day where I would go in and I would feel this clarity in my vision. I would say, wow, I know what's wrong with each one of those, and I could fix it right now. And in one day, I could complete 3 or 4. So I noticed that, again, it wasn't equal time for each phase. But I started to realize that if I recognized how I felt that day, I could actually maximize my studio production. I could say, gee, I feel like having fun today. Well, if I feel like having fun and I start working on something that's almost finished, which just needs a little tweak, I will ruin that painting. I will destroy it and bring it back to 0. If I stay true to how I felt, I feel like having fun today, I'm just going to start a bunch. Or I really feel like just taking time and working until this one painting is finished in that healing phase. That would be a bad time to start a free-spirited, starting a lot at the same time. So which is my favorite of the 3? I like them all, and that's why I'm able to start and finish paintings. I have some friends that can never finish anything, and maybe they just need to think about that 3rd phase a little bit. But for me, it's my favorite phase if I'm matching it to how I feel in that time period. My inspiration comes from many sources. Lately, I've been using the Asian feel, and historic Asian work and contemporary Asian work. I'll go on the internet, I'll look at a lot of images, I'll head for the Asian wing whenever I visit a museum. There's something about the Asian work that really intrigues me, and I think that it seems to be something different every time I look at them, but I like the flatness of them that's combined with a deep space. And I think that that's a really interesting challenge, is to have that illusion of deep space and the flatness. And they add one more thing, which is this incredible, wise way of simplicity, this zen of getting that exact tree with just a few branches, or that exact mountain with just a few brushstrokes. And so I really value looking at those, and I kind of soak it up, the simplicity, the flatness with the spatial depth. And then when I'm painting in my studio, I kind of go off on different tangents, but I use those 3 kind of concepts as inspiration to continue with the painting and see where it can go. If I had to define my philosophy of painting in one sentence, I would say it would be involving meditation. And that meditation is a non-physical way of connecting to something higher or something deeper. Some people say God, some say divine, some say our rich inner self. Whereas painting is a way of connecting with a physical, connecting with a tangible item and an action. So that would be meditation is connecting with the divine in a non-physical way, and painting is a way to connect with the divine in a physical way and have something tangible, a receipt of that journey at the end. That's longer than one sentence.